Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Luana, I have been introduced, and I'm the clinic manager for Goa Quan Nutrition. So we do have two centers in Goa. I'm going to be doing a very basic gist of what is nutrition, why is it important for special children, what are the roles of nutrition that it can play in your child. Okay, because many of us are not aware of how much of an impact nutrition can make on these children. Okay, so I'm going to start with what is nutrition. Can I leave this question open to you guys? Can you tell me what is nutrition according to you? Requires for the process to occur. Anybody else? What is nutrition? Anybody else? Or anybody else please remember? Okay, so basically nutrition is providing those basic the act or the process of nourishing or being nourished. Okay. Now there are 6 components of nutrition. Anybody knows the 6 components of nutrition? What do you think it is? Okay, protein, carb and fat is the most easiest. After that? And the last one, the 6th one? No? Water. Alright? So the 6 components of nutrition are protein, then carbohydrate, fat, vitamins, minerals and water. So anybody knows what the basic role of protein is in our body? So protein is like a building block of our entire body. So protein is made up of tiny constituents called amino acids. Each of these amino acids are required for some particular growth of the cell, development and stuff like that. Whether it is the brain development or development of your body, of your organs, whatever. Your muscles, all this. Alright? The next thing is carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is basically the energy that we get. Okay, it's the primary fuel source. So all your energy, all the glucose that comes through your body is from carbohydrate. Okay? The next thing is fat. Now fat is also a very dense source of energy. So 1 gram of fat normally gives 9 kilocalories as compared to protein and carbohydrate, that is 4 kilocalories. Alright? So fat is a constituent that's also present in most of our cells. So our cell has a lining. Alright? That lining has 1/4 of fat around it. So as much as we think that fats are bad, no, that's not right. Fats are required in certain amounts in our body. Even cholesterol is required in certain amounts in our body. It is produced in our body in certain amounts as well. Alright? So it's just the amount that we need to eat that needs to be right. The type of fat we eat that needs to be right. Okay, the next thing fats are required for is we have certain vitamins that are fat soluble and certain vitamins that are water soluble. So fat acts like a transporting agent of these vitamins in our body. So for a kid, these components are very important. Never stop fat for a kid. But the kind of fat that you give the kid is very important. That's what we will be telling you about. Okay, vitamins and minerals are required. They are like these tiny agents that go and do the overhauling process of your, say suppose you have a car. Okay, so the major things you would focus on is my engine, my fuel and stuff like that. But there is a lot of maintenance that needs to be happening for your engine to run very well. There is a certain oil that you need to put on, this kind of thing. So that's how vitamins and minerals do. They try to help to keep your body polished at all points of time. All the functioning happening, energy cycles, all this is going to happen very effectively with vitamins and minerals. Lastly, coming to water. How much percent of our body is made of water? It's very important. How much? 60. Okay, and how many percent of our brain is made of water? Anybody knows that? So, water is important for our brain also. Alright, so about 70% of our brain has water as a constituent in it. Okay, going on. What are the major functions? As we all said, it's energy giving. So carb and fat basically is energy giving. Next is protein, vitamins, minerals required for growth and repair of tissues. And there is something known as dietary fiber that comes mostly from carbohydrates, that is the complex form of carbohydrates. Alright, that and water is required for regulation of all body processes, for your bowel movements, for the removal of waste from your body. Okay, consumption is from one end, removal also is very important so that toxic development does not happen in our body. Okay, now carbohydrates again are classified in The complex ones are the ones that are greater fuel sources over long periods of time. Okay, and the next thing is fat. Fat has saturated and unsaturated as well. What is saturated? Saturated means one straight chain with no breaks in it. Okay, this is very difficult to break in our body. Whereas unsaturated is monounsaturated and poly, means one break and many breaks. When it is one break, that particular fat is broken very well. It is taken and it causes insulation around our heart. It helps our heart health. Okay, it boosts our HDL, that's a good cholesterol levels in the blood. Poly also helps to a certain degree. There is omega 3 and omega 6, which many of you must have heard as of now. So those are the fats that you should concentrate in your diet. Saturated fat will go and get clogged in the arteries if consumed in excess, and it will lead to arterial blocks or strokes and stuff like that later on. Okay, now why is nutrition important for special children? Okay, what could be the role that nutrition could play? I'm going to highlight a few points because Suhasini is going to go way into depth of each food item and what it would do. Okay, so neuromuscular development is very important for these kids. Okay, motor coordination, movements, improve their immune function, because if you know, these kids are very, very susceptible to infections, skin rashes, allergies, all these types of things. It also helps retain their muscle mass in their body, helps building up the muscle mass. You notice that these kids do not have sufficient energy to pick up a spoon and stuff like that because they have a lot of muscular dystrophy. Alright, so it helps in this case. It also helps in improving particular symptoms that a child could be having. As simple as a symptom of wanting to run about the hyperactivity, or mumbling, or not being able to say clear words out, or giggling, or any of these conditions. It also helps mood and behavior, like the anger management and all these kind of things. Alright. Now going on next. Okay, these are certain areas that we can help. Alright, so all of these kids have certain health issues that come up because of the certain conditions, like the immune system is not well developed. The thickness of their tongue makes it very difficult. So all these kind of things can be treated with nutrition and the kind of food that needs to go into them. It also helps in maximizing the brain function of these kids. Okay, so there are certain types of nutrients that can help the brain functioning. There are also nutrients that are required to reduce neuromuscular excitability in these kids and manage the transmission between a signal that's passed from your brain to your muscles. That's what is going to help. Alright? A probiotic, that is a healthy bacteria. Okay, you know we have healthy bacteria present in our gut. Okay, it forms the lining of our gut. So anything like curd, everything has curd, it gives you a better stomach and stuff like that. They generally have these probiotics. So for these kids, it's required in a bigger amount, almost in a billion amount. Alright? It helps promote that integrity of the gut and in the immunity. Dan is going to touch up on this as well. It also helps in brain development and in the behavioral modification. In a few scientific studies that have proven over the years that helps in correlation. It's not that we just come up and we say that okay, you do this and it will work. But there are a lot of studies that have been conducted that have proven that this has worked for certain people. Okay, so the first study that was done was to understand whether there is a connection between your gut and your brain. Okay, so in this particular study, they studied that there is a particular, in your central nervous system, there is a particular loci or a point. Okay, this point regulates your gut health and it regulates your sensitivity to certain situations, like your reaction to situations and stuff like that. So they found that both these loci or both these points were present in the same area of your central nervous system. So if one was affected, the repercussion was seen on the other. So that's how they understood that there is some connection between the gut and the brain. It need not be only for, in the case of special children, but also people who suffer from certain bowel disorders or anything like that. It could be related to stress. Stress can also affect the gut. Alright, the second thing is they found a connection between behavior and reaction and the brain, in which they found that the central nervous system connected the gut and the brain to three parts. One is a neural part that is neurons present that send electrical signals of impulses. The second is endocrine, that's our thyroid and all our other glands that are controlled by the pituitary in our brain. And the third is through immunity. So if your gut is not strong, it can affect you in all these three ways. Alright? So this in turn affects your brain function and your behavior in an individual. So certain foods that trigger this, what foods are good for it, what foods should be avoided, all this is what we are going to explain because of this theory that we have and the scientific backing that we have behind it. Alright, and the third one is very specific to special kids. There were 36 vital nutrients that were provided to these particular ADHD children, okay, including essential amino acids that Suhasini is going to touch upon, mostly they are methionine and glutamine that are very important. Also certain vitamins and minerals like iron, selenium and zinc and magnesium. And for 8 weeks these kids were given just this as opposed to the medications for these particular treatments. So as opposed to allopathic medicines, all these particular 36 vital nutrients were given to them and they found drastic improvements in hyperactivity, impulse control and impaired focus that improve in these kids. Okay, so their focus and attention improve, their impulsive reactions improve and the hyperactivity comes down. Okay. Now, how do you calculate or how do you interpret how much of nutrition to give to these kids? On what basis are you going to plan? Like how much of energy should I give to this kid? How much of carbohydrate? How much of proteins we need to give them? So basically RDA is nothing but a recommended dietary allowance that is planned for a kid. Right? Now this RDA runs from an infant of 1-year-old up till 17 to an 18-year-old kid. So generally any nutritionist, any dietitian will want to follow this particular RDA. But this RDA has been taken on the base of a very reference child, okay, which might not meet the needs of what our special children need. So what we have to do is take the base of an RDA, but depending on the kind of condition the child has, whether it is an autistic child who is grossly underweight and malnourished, we need to increase their caloric intake, or whether it's a Down syndrome kid that is getting obese and we need to cut down the caloric intake. That is the decision of the nutritionist. That is why we need an expert opinion in this case. We need to understand whether I'm following the right amount of calories for my kid, or I'm overfeeding my kid, or I'm underfeeding my kid. Alright, so we cannot go by the general standards that are provided by the government. So what can we do? How do we fit into this picture? Alright, the first thing we can do is a nutritionist can help and improve the symptoms that are faced by these kids. Okay, we can help reduce the nutrient deficiencies that bring about certain symptoms and certain conditions in them. We can boost their immunity so their susceptibility to fall prey to all sicknesses reduces. We can avoid certain foods that we know are going to trigger a bad response in them. We can suggest to you a particular supplementation that needs to be given to them that is documented to have an effect in such children, which we leave it not in the hands of the parent but in the hands of the expert. We help parents we counsel parents to understand what they should give their children, what are the wise selections of food items that should be given to the kids, improve their sleep quality, because when the sleep is affected, of course the parent stays awake too. It's a loss-loss situation for both. So we help improve their sleep quality as well, and we help the kids attain a holistic development in which that they can come up to the level of actually doing things properly, improving their system and getting onto a regular normal life. Okay. So now I'm handing it over to Suhasini, which she's going to touch to Ryan, who's going to touch upon growth and how to track growth in these kids. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Last one, can you hear me? Okay. I'm a dad. My son is 3 years old. Okay. By the grace of God, it's a normal kid. I gave him sugar. White sugar. I mix it in a glass of milk and I gave it to her. He's my guinea pig. The next half an hour, I give him plain milk. What Luana tried to convey to you is, as a special educator, you have to understand just one thing. This is the human body. You put the right thing in the human body, it works well. You put average stuff in the human body, it works average. And you put the wrong thing in the human body, and it's not going to perform. So you have normal children who get hyperactive if you give them the wrong foods. So what about the special children? So nutrition plays a phenomenal role from the carbohydrates, from the protein, from the fats. So what you need to be doing is understanding when you make your fish curry rice, when you make your dal chawal roti, the elements that go into that govern how that child will behave for the next 3 hours, next 24 hours, next 24 years. This is what this seminar is about. This is what you need to do. So I'm not trying to give you a lot of tips today with my colleagues who asked me, but what Luana tried to convey to you is very, very simple. Food getting into your body, you need to know the individual components. Okay? Once you know the individual components, you are able to start separating the good and the bad. Food for thought. I met the director of the National Institute of Nutrition around 8 months ago in Ahmedabad. And we were sitting in the dais having a conversation. He said, Mr. Fernando, brinjal, eggplant. 1984, when we did a study, 1984, I think I was in school that time. Okay? 1984, the brinjal had 40% more magnesium than brinjal in our 2015 study. So our philosophy in nutrition is, can I just host my normal fruits and vegetables to live healthier? The answer in this forum is it's not possible with today's agricultural techniques. So normal children are not getting enough of nutrients. What about special children? That is why Luana was talking about probiotics, supplements, things, nutrients that were given in our study, 36 nutrients. So a lot of times, the philosophy of society has been medicine. I put medicine to control the brain. The philosophy today is there something missing? Right, the child is special. But you take the special child and make that child an ordinary child and you give bad food. The human body doesn't perform. Now replace that normal child with a special child, you're going to have more cascades which are then treated with medication. So the $1 million question is this child under your care getting the right nutrients and getting the wrong nutrients which are creating a stimulus of bad outcomes? This is very important. So where do I start as a nutritionist? Which is, one second, everyone's recording and all. Good news. Would you like this presentation on email?
Yes.
Can you read it right to the beginning? Take out your mobile phones. Where's the slide? First slide. Take out your mobile phones. Go to the second slide. Yeah. Do it up. Okay. Can you on your phone? So if you want the mobile number, in the SMS, send an SMS with your name. So whatever is your name, space, and then your email ID. A lot of teachers have sent us, please send presentation. Oh, we can't send a presentation in SMS. We need your email ID. So please, if not anything, don't give your name. At least give your email ID. Okay? So that's 777 608 0000. 777 608 0000. This presentation, entire presentation will be made available. Second good piece of news. If you forget what we are teaching you today, 6 months later, I am going to make this entire presentation available online. We will also email you that link so you can re-watch the 3-hour workshop all the weekend. Everyone got that? Can you move forward, please? Nod of heads. Some phones are still up. Yes, go forward. Okay, can I go to my slide? Okay. In a folder, we have put in a growth chart. Could you take out any one of them, the girl or the boy ones? Okay? Just keep that ready outside your, just keep that ready outside. Okay? So, can I get my 3 things? Okay. How do we observe children? Pediatricians, when you go to them, if you have your own child, what's the first thing? What's the first thing that the child is when you go to the doctor's clinic, you put them on the weighing scale. So height and weight is but a must. Have you ever noticed special children are always almost lagging behind in terms of height? Weight goes both ways. Sometimes overweight, sometimes underweight. So the first aspect, if you are going to be educating children tomorrow, you have to become Sherlock Holmes. Everyone knows who Sherlock Holmes is, right? You are the investigator. When that child comes up to you, whether they're 3 or 4 or 5 years of age, you need to know the weight, you need to know the height. I had a teacher once ask me, so does that mean I need to have a weighing scale in my school? The answer is yes. Right? Do I take the child's weight every day? No. Once a month is good. Okay? Normally when we go, there are 2 things, we do the health circumference in your babies, but mostly weight and height is what you are looking for, and that graph is what I'm going to teach you how to use for your as a ready lecture. By the way, these graphs are easily available online. Just Google it, download it, print it, or you can take a photocopy of it. And if you ever get lost, then you can always email us and we will send it across to you. So, next slide. So everyone looking at this? Okay. Now, the X scale. Now I was bad at maths in school, okay? So, the X scale is this guy, this model. That denotes the age of the child. So let's assume, what age would you like to give? Give me an age of any child. 7. So let's take 7. Okay? So, let's take 7. So find that 7 is on your graph. Find that 7 is on your graph. Can you see that? Okay? And I am going to tell you, you have 2 children of 7 years old in your class. Okay? One is going to be 12 kgs. Okay? And one is going to be 25 kgs. Now, can you take your pen or pencil? Okay? Now, which is weight? Can you see this column now? This is weight. So at 7, mark where 12 kgs is, and another child is 25 kgs. Just put a dot. Right? Now, tell me something. Your 12-year-old, 12 kg kid, is the kid in the graph line? It's below the line. So what does that say to you? The child is going to be underweight. That's the philosophy. Now, the 25 kg, which line is it coming on? Is it coming on the 75% line or the 90% line? Sorry? A little below. So your child is around the 80th percentile of the population is at the correct height or weight. So you get getting the notion. On weight, you will come to know where in the segment of the population this child is lying. So now if I tell you your 7-year-old is 35 kgs, what happens to the kid then? Slightly above, more than 95, 97. So it's a cause of concern. Then we go on to other measurements. So everyone understood how to use this? Students, you got it? You need to know this chart when you are working with children. You should be able to quickly just, and phones are really good. You have this on a phone. You just open your phone, put the child in there next to the wall, place a ruler over there, take a measuring tape, how many centimeters, go to your chart, plot it. Okay? So the centimeters of plotting is above. So can you go up? Can you see another segment of graph here? Can you see that? So if your child, now this 7-year-old child, let's say this 7-year-old child is 90 centimeters. Right? Is the child lying in the height growth? No? Okay. Now this other child who was 25 kgs, that child will be 120 centimeters. Okay. Now you've seen your dog. You normal children, you want them in the 90 plus segment of the profile. That means 90% of the population should be of this height and this weight. if your child is falling drastically under in height and weight, the question then is this child being fed correctly? Got it? Because up until now, all your therapy with this child has been at the location, at the spot, better behavior. My thought process to all of you and my team's thought process is, when that child is coming to you every day, are they on the height and weight scale? Are they missing out on growth? If they are missing out on growth, they are missing out on development. And I don't mean growth only height and weight. The brain. So the body is clear indication when a child is lagging, development is also lagging. So if development is lagging, what do? We need to improve the nutrition going into this child, and therefore this chart. So by the way, on the top, if you have taken out, one will say in this top, here it will say boys or girls. So please note, don't plot a boy on a girl graph. Obviously it's different. So can you please look at your file and see the two boys and girls? It's actually different. Okay? The scales are comparatively different. Any questions regarding this? Any questions regarding this? Okay. Can you move on? Okay. No questions on growth. I'm going to come back later in the discussion. This is the most important thing. So remember, today when you are learning, shall we give us a chart? Okay. Remember one thing, when you are doing learning today, whatever is being told to you, take it down from a perspective. Does this information apply to any child? That way it memorizes faster into your brain cells for you to implement with your children.
Can I have parents of special children and the students raise your hands up? Put your hands down when you've got a question.
Okay, good exercise for you. Send you the electronic copy if you want more copies of this to be printed. Sending a hard copy is also possible, but then when we've seen when we send it by courier from Bangalore, it ends up wet and torn and tattered. So it can be done in more, so we can also be arrangements for that.
Started? Yes, okay. So you can keep the poster and we tell you when you need to look into it and how to understand it. So what I am going to be talking today is going to be a lot on what you will be applying on a day-to-day basis. So we are primarily covering autism, ADHD. Symptoms of both tend to overlap. We have Down syndrome, dyslexia and dyspraxia. So yes, so let me begin with ADHD. So both for ADHD and autism, before I get into the slides, you need to remember 5 important nutrients. Okay? Do any of you want to start guessing which these nutrients would be? 5 important nutrients, like Joanna already mentioned a couple of them. Sorry? Water, okay? Not the top 5. Carbohydrates. No, I'm looking at more specifically, like iron, this, that. So more specifically, what would they be? Give me one. Probiotics, I take probiotics. Okay, so probiotics, yes. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about 5 important diets. The first one is a part of your fat, which is omega 3. Okay, so we have good fats and we have bad fats, which Joanna spoke about. I'm going to be talking about the good guys. Okay, so the good guys, there is the omega 6 and then there's the omega 3. Now, what has happened over the period of time? Okay, in fact, omega 3 is found mostly in fish. Okay, but what has happened over the period of time is, as everybody has evolved, we've gone to eating more of packaged foods. Okay, we've gone to eating more of fried snacks. So we are getting fat, but we are getting the bad fat, and we are not really eating probably as much as fish as probably our ancestors did. Okay, we are not having as much as flax seeds for vegetarians as our parents or our ancestors did. So what has happened over a period of time is the omega 6, which is also a good guy, has gone up, but the omega 3 hasn't gone up in equal amounts, and they work together. Okay, so why am I telling you this is because in our brain, 60%, in fact you can call each of our head a fat head. 60% of our brain is fat. Okay? And that's why fat is now getting important because you need it for good brain development. So what's happening is, in our brain, we've not given it the omega-3 fat that it needs, but given a lot of omega-6. So your body has begun to use the omega-6 to do the role of the omega-3. Is that right? Is that a good thing? Why not? Why not? They're anyways good guys. So why do you think it's not a good thing? Why do you think it would probably not be a good thing? It's like if I had bone issues, instead of having calcium, instead of having magnesium, would I be doing the right thing? No. So it's the same way. Okay, though both are important for the bone, it's not right when you need one. So what happens is, over the years, the body has started using omega-6 to make your brain membranes and everything. So the mind is confused. And why I'm telling you this is, the kids, the ADHD kids and the autistic kids have a confused mind, which is what I'm getting to. Okay? So the mind is confused because it's used the wrong material to make this hardware. So hence, the messages are not reaching the way it has to reach. Okay? And what you're saying is not getting there right, and what they want to do is not coming back out right. So that is why omega-3 is very, very important for brain development, for eye contact. Okay, so in omega-3 there is DHA, which is one part of it, and then there's EPA, which is the other part of it. The DHA is important to the brain and the eyes, okay? And your EPA is important to your skin, your immunity, your hair, all of that. So that is why omega-3 is very, very important and one of the top 5 nutrients for ADHD and autism. So I'm covering ADHD and autism together because they overlap a lot. A lot of the symptoms, I'm sure as teachers you would agree that there are a lot of symptoms, like the hyperactivity is there in both of them. Both of them would have lack of focus and attention. So that's why I'm covering both of them together. The next important nutrient is probiotics. Okay? So your probiotics are your good bacteria. So like Joanna already said, you need the good bacteria for your digestive system to absorb what you're eating. Else, it's just going out as waste. And even worse, it's staying inside and just getting fermented. Okay? So, you need the good bacteria. In fact, if I'm not wrong, the amount of bacteria that we have in our digestive system is much more than our actual weight. So that's how many bacteria that we have, and we need it. Again, so if that is there, then why is it a problem? Because we've killed it. Because we eat foods that the bacteria doesn't understand. That is poison to the bacteria. And say when we have cold or a cough, we go on antibiotics. Antibiotics kill bacteria, but also the good bacteria. Okay? So that is why probiotics are important. So, that is the digestive system which absorbs nutrients, which is great. But when they don't absorb the nutrients and they're not taken it out, it remains there and gets fermented, which affects your mind. On a day that we've not gone to the toilet in the morning, aren't we really tired and lazy and sleepy till we really go up and have our first nature's call out? Aren't we? As normal parents and normal teachers, we are. So imagine these kids have how bad it could be for them. So what happens is you don't have the good bacteria and the food is fermented there, and that causes a lot of distraction and instability in the mind. So you need good bacteria. So when I'm talking about distraction and instability as teachers, you'll immediately relate it to hyperactivity, lack of attention, right? So I'll get to it one by one. So 2 nutrients over, omega-3 and probiotics. The third most important is going to be zinc. Yes. Okay? Do you know what zinc does? Okay, I'm going to step you off the third nutrient. Do you know what zinc does? Do you know where we have zinc in food? Okay, a lot of your seafood has zinc, a lot of meat has zinc. Vegetables don't get zinc that easily. There are pumpkin seeds which has some amount of zinc. So yes, why is zinc important? So We have the carbohydrates, we have the protein, we have the fat. Okay? But for the three to work and digestion give energy or do its work, we need the vitamins and the minerals like how Luana said. Now, when zinc, this one guy, the next guy I'm getting to next, zinc is one guy that participates in so many of these processes that are required to give energy, for everything, for sleep. So where is zinc important? It's important for brain development, it's important for eye contact, it's important for immunity, it's important for muscle tone, okay? And yes, especially also a lot of these kids have sensory issues, like they don't like being touched, they don't like some smells, they don't like some sound. All of this again is because of the deficiency of zinc. Could be one of the many reasons. Again, because zinc is important in how your body processes touch, how your body processes smell. And the most important is having a picky appetite and having a fussy appetite is a lot of times because they are deficient in zinc. The texture, how the body processes texture is dependent on zinc, and when there is zinc deficiency, that doesn't happen properly. Okay? So we've done the three nutrients. What are these three guys? Zinc. Yeah. Okay. So zinc, I also said it's important for your eye contact. The next guy is magnesium. Okay? Now magnesium is as important as zinc because magnesium is also involved in close to 300 of your body reactions. Okay? And out of that, what's related to kids, the special kids as I would call them, is your brain development again, your memory, okay, language, and what else? Distraction, and also their anger and aggression. All of that is also is something that you see when magnesium is deficient. Okay? So what happens when there's low levels of magnesium is, so magnesium plays an important role in your nerve and your muscle. Your nerve and your muscle functioning, magnesium plays an important role. Now when there are low levels of magnesium, this neuromuscular connection is very excited. So when it's very excited, there is obviously hyperactivity, there is obviously irritation, aggression, running around, distraction, so all of that. So it happens because there's not enough magnesium, and so there is a neuromuscular excitability. And if you have good amount of magnesium in your diet, then this magnesium is like a calming hormone. It calms you down. So then it calms down the neuromuscular connection, and then things are better. So to give you examples, I've had kids who have had very poor sitting tolerance. They can just not sit in a place. But we've seen when we work with all these guys together, they actually sit down and focus on what is being told to them. They understand. Of course, it will take some time, but you can definitely. I had therapists come back and tell that what probably I thought would expect to take 1 week to get past, probably gone past in 3 days. Okay, so that's magnesium. Anything else with magnesium? Oh yes, magnesium plays an important role in sleep because it's a calming. It helps calm your mind down. It helps in constipation, which I will get to how. It helps with anxiety and mood swings. I think now you relate to why exactly, because they're neuromuscular, so everything to do with the mind, it helps. Zinc also does. They all work in a similar pattern. So the fifth guy is vitamin D. Okay? So we did omega-3, we did probiotics, we did zinc, we did magnesium, and we're going to the fifth most important guy, which is vitamin D. What does vitamin D do? Now vitamin D is important for calcium absorption, for bone health, that we all know. But besides that, it also plays a very, very important role in your brain. It plays a very important role in mood, it plays an important role in sleep, in focus, and also plays a very important role per se in, okay, I said mood, so yeah, in depression and stuff, it plays a very important role. Immunity is another thing, and skin health. So vitamin D is a part of almost every cell in your body. So again, it has all of these roles. Yes, that's that. So we've done the 5 most important nutrients. food additives, your food colors, your sweeteners and all of that. All of these cause a lot of hyperactivity and sensitivity in things. They are foreign material. You and I cannot process them sometimes. So when their digestive system is weak, you can definitely not expect them to process it. Hence, a big no-no to all the market products. Until and unless you know it says it's one organic and you see the ingredients to have all of, nothing saying, nothing, no numbers. Numbers are not what the body has. No numbers, no stabilizers. If it says natural colors, then again it depends, you need to see on where it comes. Sometimes they say natural color from beetroot, from carrot. Okay? So, no additives and no preservatives. All of food additives basically cause a lot of hyperactivity. The next important guy is phenol. So, what are phenols? So, a lot of our foods contain phenols and sulfates. Now, example, apple. Doctor is saying apple is not good. Tomatoes, dried fruits. So all of these contain phenols. Now, phenol is not a bad guy. It's only a bad guy for an autistic kid or sometimes an ADHD kid because to digest this phenol, the body needs an enzyme which needs sulfate. Okay? Not anything too technical. So to digest phenol, the body needs one guy in between, and that guy in between requires third guy called sulfate. And most autistic and ADHD kids are deficient in sulfate. So what happens is that phenol just keeps staying in your gut, and that causes a lot of mood issues. It causes a lot of reactions. Okay? One such is giggling. How many of you have kids who randomly giggle? Who have random giggling or silly behavior? All of you or no one? You do, yes. So this is one of the main things that phenol does is give this random giggling. Because it's an alcohol, it goes to the mind and it just abundantly disturbs the mind. So what happens is they just giggle. And we sometimes think that okay, they are in their own world and they're giggling. Not always the case. Because of something in the body which is not going out, which is staying inside and causing so much drama. Okay? So that's phenol. Did I miss out on anything important in telling you? No, not really. Okay. The next thing that Ryan is going to be talking to you at length about are these guys called gluten, casein and soy. Ryan is going to be talking to you at length on it after I'm done with everything. The only thing that you need to know at this point is these three guys have proteins that the body cannot digest. So they get into the blood, go to your brain and cause all the instability in the brain. Okay? So that's that. Besides this, Ryan said his son, when he gives sugar, has a lot of hyperactivity. And this is very true in cases with ADHD and autism, wherein sugar and fruit juices which have a lot of sugar cause a lot of hyperactivity in kids. So that's something that the kids like with ADHD and autism shouldn't be given too much. And yeah, so three main things are additives, phenol, gluten, casein, soy, and food additives, and there's one more thing called histamine which I'll come to. So now you can take out your poster. Okay, the poster has autism, one mistake, which is a typographic error. Instead of autism, it says autism. That's just a typing error at the printing center. So first I go to ADHD before autism. So why is nutrition important for ADHD? It reduces the symptoms. They have better neurological brain function. It improves their focus and attention. It helps maintain a good digestive flora and improves immunity. Right? Next. So first we deal with hyperactivity. So for hyperactivity, magnesium. I think all of us know now that magnesium is important, right? Okay, so magnesium has neuromuscular excitability, so giving magnesium calms it down. Go forward. Omega-3, I told you the messages don't go between the brain cells, hence there's lesser transmission of messages. Vitamin vitamin B6. So I will tell you about vitamin B6. So there is something known as GABA, or rather something known as glutamate in the body, which is again a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter is nothing but it helps to transmit your nerve signals. Okay. So glutamate is quite an excited guy. Okay. Who is an he's basically an excited neurotransmitter. Now he gets converted into GABA with the help of vitamin B6. Now GABA is the calm guy. So glutamate is the excited guy and GABA is the calm guy. And to get there, they require vitamin B6. Most kids with ADHD have a vitamin B deficiency as such itself, and more so per se vitamin B6. So when they have a vitamin B6 deficiency, they have the hyperactivity and everything. So hence vitamin B6 is important to calm the neurotransmitter. What to avoid? I've already told you, food additives, coloring, flavoring, they all cause hyperactivity. And then you have phenols, which again cause a lot of distortion, silly behavior, repetitive behavior, giggling, all of that. In fact, I can tell you, I had a parent who had a son who was about 7 years of age, and that kid would randomly just keep giggling. And the mother always thought probably because he's doing something, he probably is busy, and he was very artistic. So she thought it probably is in his own world. So when we started the nutrition program and I got on all the symptoms and everything, and we worked with stopping phenols, the mother called me about 4 weeks saying, my son's not giggling, is there something to worry about? But it becomes a cause of worry because we think the kid is happy. But in actual, it's actually not doing the kid any good. If the kid is not giggling, the kid is not having a hyperactivity, he can focus better, he'll have better attention span. So that's the effect of phenols that I definitely vouch for. Next, giggling and laughing. So yes, biotin-rich foods. Why biotin is important is because it helps to keep the bad bacteria. Now, most of the kids with ADHD and autism have the bad bacteria in the digestive system. Okay? So biotin helps to keep it in a lesser level and push it out of the system. When there's not enough biotin in the body, then it goes back and it makes sure there's again more instability. To maintain healthy gut flora, you need probiotics, and you avoid phenols, you avoid, so you can see your overgrowth again with a lot of junk food that comes in, high sugar food, like I said, and going gluten, soy, and casein free. One second, move forward. So when you see in your poster, right, you see over here there are green, there's red. That's the same thing that we've done in the poster. Okay? So there's ADHD, there's the giggling and laughing. So you have eggs and banana, okay, which are rich in vitamin B, which are rich in biotin, sorry. Yeah, so there is egg and banana, which is rich in biotin. There is a probiotic supplement, which is good in probiotics. Why am I not saying curd is good? Why am I not including curd? Yes, it's not you. Yes, so because curd is made from milk has casein is not something that they can digest. And hence probiotic supplements. Okay? And then you have mushroom and sunflower seeds, which are again rich in biotin and also vitamin B6, which is also good for them. And then you have the red guys, which are all the foods to avoid. Okay? Because they either fall into one of the 3 categories. You have something GCS. GCS is nothing but gluten, casein and salt. Okay? So the bottom bit of your poster says that GCS is gluten, casein and soy, and GLP is green leafy vegetables. Okay? So the whole idea is, so when you have kids with any of the symptoms, you exactly know which food to give and which to avoid. We didn't want to get into detail of telling you give magnesium-rich foods because that's not going to be something that you have done. So we just mentioned the food names. Okay? So you're able to relate to the poster right now? Yes? Yeah, if anybody is not understood, our biggest giveaway today is for you to be able to understand this and use this. Anybody is not understood, I can explain another symptom and I can explain to you. Okay, let me do that. Maybe hyperactivity, I started with that. Brown rice and pistas are good source of vitamin B6 and hence why they are in green. Green leafy vegetables and pumpkin seeds are rich source of magnesium. You have fish and chia seeds which are rich source of omega omega-3. So that is the hyperactivity slide. Okay, so chia seeds are nothing but, you know, the sabza seeds, the tulsi seeds, they look like that but they are not. Okay, they are something, they are seeds of the same sort. They are right now available in good, you get it easily in India. Their actual origin is Brazil. Okay, but you get it easily in India right now. It's off the Amazon and everything.
If I want to buy it in Goa, how can I buy it?
Amazon delivers in Goa. Okay, I'm not a Goan, so I don't know. Amazon delivers.
You have it in the supermarket, any organic stores, fabric foods, there is Kinos, Maxins, all of these supermarkets have something known as chia seeds. Right? So you just got to go to the seed section, you pick pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and all, and you have chia seeds. They're like your kalunda seeds, but they are fatter and they swell up.
They also swell up, they look the same, but they have more nutrition in them than sabza seeds do. Okay? Yes.
How do you eat it?
I'll get the recipe at the end of it. Don't worry. You can basically add it to anything or just add it to water. So I'll get to it. Okay, so, and then, so I said the three, so the foods are there. What to avoid? All your food additives, artificial colors and flavors. Phenols are basically present in peanuts, honey, dry fruits, tomatoes, apple, and hence you avoid. I also said GCL, but I've not put it here because honestly GCL is something that we go downright avoid, which is with ADHD and all. Okay, going forward. Is this simple? Have you guys understood? Yes. So relate the colors here to the colors in your poster. Okay? Okay, lack of attention, omega-3 again, because it's lesser transmission of messages, which I have already told you. Zinc, because it affects how your brain can pass messages. Okay, how your brain can function. Vitamin D, because it affects attention and focus. Iron is important for synthesis of dopamine. Why is dopamine important? Again, like how I said, that is a calming, there's something that calms the mind, is something that excites the mind. Dopamine is something that calms the mind. Okay? So, iron is important for the synthesis of dopamine, which helps. Omega-3 is important because if there's a deficiency, then there's lesser transmission of messages, which we don't want because that will affect our attention, and so it's important. I hope you're getting what is written under each food. Okay? And vitamin B12 is important for brain and nerve development and function. And most kids with ADHD and autism have vitamin B12 deficiency because the digestive system is so unstable, they're not able to make the vitamin B12 and absorb it from foods. And of course, giving histamine-rich foods. Histamine is something that's probably present in, it's present in peanuts, I know it's present in your chickpeas, but for if they have poor attention span, then histamine is something that causes more hyperactivity, more agitation. So these kids have a lot of anger, aggression, they're irritable and they can't focus. Okay? Yes, going forward, communication and language delay, we have omega-3, we have, EPA and DHA, then we have vitamin B12, we have biotin-rich foods, because it keeps the digestive system fine. And then we have serotonin. Serotonin is again another guy that calms the mind down. Serotonin is present in chocolates, but you can't give chocolates to these kids because they're rich in sugar. Okay? So I'm saying this because the reason why you probably, on a day that you're hyper and you want to calm down, you eat a chocolate, you feel good is because of serotonin. It's not because of anything else. It's okay if they don't have this enough. Symptom relief. So, okay, so while I'm saying each of this is good for this, if some of these kids have a combination of symptoms, right? If they have, most of them would, if they are giggling, laughing and they have a communication and language delay, then you do both. You avoid what is to avoid there and to avoid here. Okay? Yes? So when we work with kids, what we do is we sit down and we spend a good amount of time taking on all possible symptoms, and then we take a good 10-12 days to make a nutrition plan, because we have to avoid the guys, we have to avoid, we have to give the guys, we have to give, and above all, these kids have a very, very picky appetite, so we need to manage that as well. Okay? So serotonin and then casein and salt. Next, eye contact. zinc, DHA, brain, eye. Okay, zinc. So there are the yeah. Okay. So zinc, there's DHA, and there's vitamin A rich food. So what happens is when there's a deficiency of zinc, the body also cannot process vitamin A. So hence there's a vitamin A deficiency, and we all know vitamin A is important for vision. Carrots are good for eyes. So hence it affects. And then you avoid human casein and soy again. Next. Yes, one. Yes. Yes. So recipes like you asked, now if you see in your folder, at the end there are about 8 recipes. Okay? So, one, go back. So, I would have mentioned one at least from this would be there as a recipe. So, that is the almond chia breakfast today, which is basically almond milk with chia, which is a lot of magnesium, which is a lot of omega-3, and hence your kid is definitely going to school and have better focus on attention. So you have the other recipes which you can relate to as you see. There is almond milk, or there will be crunchy spiced potato, sweet potato. Yes. Okay, so all that you need to write down is about the recipe. If you see it over here, just write down autism ADHD. So you know you can make. So for the almond chia pudding and for the crunchy spiced sweet potato, just write over there ADHD. So you know you can make that. So before we So right now, before I go forward to the other 4 special conditions that I will be covering, we have a quick tea break. Okay, we're not going anywhere. Snacks and tea is coming in, and then you can eat and then we can come. Any doubts so far? Any questions? So the Sandhya over here wants to know what are probiotic supplements. You said I can't have curd. You said curd has a probiotic, but you said I can't give the stick curd. So what are probiotic supplements? Probiotic supplements are everyone this week. Okay, yeah. So probiotic supplements are something that you get these days in small capsules. These are good bacteria that have been concentrated in the lab and put into a capsule form. So the curd that I make in my house and the curd that you make in your house, we don't know how many billion probiotics there are, but these come in specific quantity like 5 billion, 10 billion, 25 billion. So based on each kid, the age and the number of symptoms, we decide the dosage and accordingly we tell you where you can pick these up from. And so they are generally capsules or they even come in powder form. The only thing with probiotic supplements is you need to keep them in a cool place because otherwise it's bacteria, it will die. So the next question is there's Yakult, which is in the market, which is sold as probiotic. Why will I not give Yakult to a kid with ADHD or autism? Yes, it has a lot of sugar. You know, 1 bottle of Yakult has 2 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, it has 12 grams of sugar. And so the sweetness and it's also a milk derivative. So hence you can't give a Yakult as a supplement, so you will have to reach out to supplements. You get something like Bifilab, which is in the market, which a doctor will probably give you when you're on antibiotics or Viabac. So all of these are probiotics, but they are not definite. We get definite to the strain, to the quantity, and then we give. Any other question?
What's your opinion about fat yogurt?
Fat yogurt? As a
Yeah, when you try to make your culture, you don't get the
So mostly fat yogurt they do have probiotics, but they're added to it. So the reason that they don't give you curd again is you sometimes need the malai to give you the curd, and most of these don't have as much of malai in them. So the probiotic curds that are also marketed, I would not really ask you to go pick them up because, like I said, probiotics need to be kept in cold places. Like if you are good for the reason, you need to keep it in cold places. But sometimes when these supermarkets are cleaning their fridge, they're all kept outside. So I sometimes really don't know how much of probiotic is actually there. So I wouldn't really recommend for normal humans. You can. If you can make this at home, if you can make it at home, it's always better. But if not, marketed, it's fine. Again, the only reason I'm not okay marketed is because they have the stabilizer, they have this and that. That's the.
Give this, don't give this. Or for example, I was in the next class, and 2 children were very aggressive. They were actually having a fight in the class. So then I went over here and immediately said, oh, okay, this is aggressive. Anger, aggression, and self-injuries.
who are later seen in the classroom aggression. So if you get this will be the first change for the next generation. All these class 15 particulars, the way we have been practicing is that treat them with behavior modification, treat them with medication. This is the new age. Can you start inserting nutrition? And it takes 6 weeks to 6 months. I remember when both of us were working on one case. Is it tea over? Everyone got a cup of tea? We were working on one case. The girl was ADHD. She came into our company, was running all over the place. We just removed 5-6 things from the diet. Mothers started getting worried. Oh, you're going to go away. What do they give my daughter? She's not good at all. She's playing football or football. And then when we started doing that, 6 weeks later when she came to the follow-up counseling, I actually have a video of that girl sitting down at a glass counseling table and crying. So can we give this to a normal child? So my question is, a normal child will not be hyperactive, right? So can I give peanuts and honey to a normal child? You tell me. Can I give peanuts and honey to a normal child? Yes. Can I give artificial flavors and colors to a normal child? No. So that perspective, you are the judge, you are the judge. Okay? In a normal child, can I give GCS, that is gluten, casein and soya? The answer is yes. But if there is some abnormality or behavior change or skin condition or stunted growth, then you want to go to a nutritionist and say, should I check? Then we do a specialized check test on a normal child to see if there is a gluten and casein. Okay? So that will be how we do approach it.
We have a pattern of routine. Routine. Before they eat, every time they have to eat the same thing. They have a particular pattern. And this diet, in case you are introducing the diet, using this, will be helpful for them. But in case of introducing the diet, it will be your routine.
The routine you're saying is more something that the kid is demanding?
Yes.
Okay, so that's primarily again happening because of their textural processing doesn't happen, which is related to zinc. So, some of these kids, like any kid of a 4 or 5 year old, they are fussy, there's no doubt about it. But more so, what we do in such cases, we start with giving zinc-rich food in hidden forms and see if their appetite and their acceptance to new food increases. So we start with in a hidden form. It's a lot of time that we invest, but if we start in hidden forms and then we also there are kids that like white colored food. They like food that's white in color. So then we keep that as the base, but we start something inside. So we start with things that way to slowly increase their acceptance. But I have seen the same 7-year-old kid who was having the giggling. The mom of that kid at the end of almost 8-9 months came to me and said that his appetite is not the best, but I know it's improving. He's at least open to seeing what else is on the dining table and wants to see if he can eat that. So which was not earlier. Which earlier is, I will only have this at this time and I want only this for snack. So that slowly changes. It takes time because sometimes the deficiencies are so much. And sometimes, like if you would see zinc comes in almost everything. The body is sometimes using it for different purposes. So it could probably take some time, but I will say that the pattern will change when we start giving them foods that are deficient. That's how we identify. Have I answered your question? Yes. So it's sometimes linked to a deficiency.
Most children who don't have an zinc deficiency. One quick way to figure out if a child has zinc deficiency. The Nala smell, rotten smell on rotten eggs. A zinc deficient kid will not be able to smell obscene smell. They lose the sense of smell. Also, most zinc deficient children, if you place onions in front of them, while you and me like the taste of onions, they will get demoted the taste of onions. Third point is, either they will have no sense of smell, or whatever they eat, so whatever food they eat, they get a different sense of smell, taste. Now, most of you don't know this, but taste actually comes from the olfactory nerve. So as the food is going in, you smell and then you taste. So because these children lose the sense of smell because of zinc being low, the thing to take in food, new types of food is best. Final point, 66 to 100 days is the time to psychologically bring in a new behavior. 66 to 100 days, number one. And children need 12 exposures to a new food. Most adults give up by the third and fourth and fifth time. Right? So my son eats broccoli. It has been around 3 months. Every day giving him a piece of fruit. Today, I will, if I ever post on Facebook, I will put a broccoli floret, give it to my kid and say, Papa, food, Mama. He will come, chomp on it and go away. But it took me 3 months of almost alternate days of feeding him plain broccoli, steamed, no butter, no salt on it. So to develop the flavor in the child, it's 9 to 12 exposures according to the University of Sweden. So all of this to develop a routine. I don't know you as a teacher can change your routines or the food that is coming. So what you do, give the guidance to the parents what to pack. When that good food comes, start making it a habit over the next scholastic years. So that's how I would approach it.
Okay, so going to autism, we start. I've already covered most of the nutrients here. So, why autism? What effect does it have? What effect does nutrition have on symptoms? It helps improve digestion. It helps balance blood sugar, which helps keep the mind better. It increases omega-3 fats and vitamins and minerals. It improves their symptoms and avoids the food allergies. Okay, so now we get into how each of this. So, anger, aggression and self-injurious behaviors. We do see this in most cases with autism, don't we? They get angry and irritated and they will start running around and some kids, I've had a kid once who would just, if they get irritated, would go and bang their head against the wall over and over again. So these are sometimes related to nutritional deficiencies in the body. One being magnesium, because when there is a deficiency of magnesium, the mind is not calm. You need magnesium to calm the mind down. Then you have GABA, which is your glutamate, requires vitamin B6 to get converted to GABA, which calms the mind down. When there is deficiency, then again that's an issue. And you avoid histamine-rich foods because they cause, again histamine is an excited neurotransmitter. So when there's too much of it in the body, there's anger, there's aggression, there's irritability, frustration, and then gluten, casein and soy. Going forward, next symptom, anxiety and repetitive behavior. Again, similar guys coming into the picture, magnesium. Okay. Then we have taurine. Now what taurine does is taurine basically helps improve the absorption of magnesium, and it also helps in getting the synthesis of GABA. Okay, so taurine helps to calm the mind down again. Then we have serotonin, which I said helps to affect your mood, emotions and behavior. Histamine-rich foods will cause more irritability and frustration, and anything food additive like Ajinomoto and stuff will have it gets the mind excited. Okay? So, how many of us have kids who don't like a certain sound, who just close their ears when they hear a certain sound? Sometimes they don't like people coming very close to them. They don't like being touched. Like they would never shake your hand. They find that very irritating. And I have a kid in Bangalore who would not go to sleep at night if there is not at least one light on in the room. So they have that kind of, we find it very obsessive that they are with, but it's actually because of it's just the mind is so hyper and active at all times. So again, magnesium, because it has a calming effect on the nervous system and it calms your mind down and it lets the child go to sleep. Okay. Zinc, again it affects your sensory things like Ryan was mentioning. You know, your touch, your smell, your touch is one thing, smell is one thing, your in fact it even affects a lot of your language processing, visual, auditory. So all of that zinc plays a huge role in the body. Now this role played by zinc is something that happens in all our bodies, but there is deficiency in these skins and hence it is exacerbated in this way. And then the soy, gluten and casein again. Skin problems. A lot of these kids have eczema, they have a lot of spots, they have dry skin. Like even in summer, even if the mom puts as much moisturizer, they will still have dry skin. It happens mainly because of omega-3, it's a fatty acid, you need fats. So this is where the EPA plays a more important role than the DHA. DHA is for brain and the eyes, EPA is for skin, immunity, hair. So what happens is there's not enough good fat, so then there's dry skin. Then there is zinc, which again plays a huge role in skin health. Then you have vitamin A. Vitamin A again because there's less zinc, vitamin A cannot be processed. There's vitamin D, which again has an effect on the skin health. There's biotin, because when your gut is not clear, then the biotin obviously, everything obviously has an effect on your skin. The body has to show it out some way. And yes, then there's not enough good bacteria when there's lack of probiotics. Yes? Constipation. Now this is something that's there even in Down syndrome kids, this is there in autistic, in ADHD, in kids with dyspraxia. Most of them have constipation. Two main reasons is vitamin C and magnesium helps in addressing constipation. All this while you always only know fiber helps in constipation, water helps in constipation. But magnesium and vitamin C help because they help to pull in more water into your intestine. So because they have to pull in more water, of course you have to drink more water, and they help to pull in more water and help the cells of our bowels to get out soon. Okay? So magnesium, vitamin C, so you have water, fiber, magnesium, vitamin C, and you avoid these guys that only cause more chaos to your digestive system. Okay? So recipes over here, I think there's a recipe for rajma patties. So bajra roti, because when I say no gluten, everybody just dies thinking, what am I going to give my child? I can't give chapati. So you have other millets. Millets are gluten free. Millets don't have gluten. Ragi, jawar, bajra, they don't have gluten. So then you can give rotis made from that. And yeah, rajma is a good source of vitamin B, good source of magnesium. So the recipes that we've made are also coming from the foods that, the nutrients that they are rich in for this particular condition. And then there's rice milk, which you can make using brown rice or white rice. I think the recipe should be there. Going forward, any questions for autism? It's not there? Okay, then you can probably just, when you send me your email ID, we can start we put it almost like to rice. Yes. Give that. So let's go back. Anything else? Yes. Okay. So her question is, she has a parent or kid who has gone on the internet, figured out that gluten and casein is not good for autism, and hence made sure they're not giving gluten and casein to the child. So the question is that a good decision that they've taken, or is it better to go into a nutritionist and have the diet plan? I would say that's not a bad decision, because most cases with ADHD autism need to go on a gluten-free, casein-free diet. But if they're having too many symptoms, then it's also important to look into these other guys with omega-3, probiotics, zinc, magnesium, which along with the gluten and casein will help. When you have gluten and casein, you will have certain symptoms that will reduce, but they will not reduce as much as they would with other nutrients which are deficient. And to find out the deficiencies where your chart is going to help them, because that chart is going to say that, okay, in addition to you going gluten casein, which is brilliant, which is there in the know, also make sure you're doing this, this and this. So it's a combination, so it will help for them if they want something more specific to meet a nutritionist and have it all charted out. But gluten casein is not a bad option, provided they're making sure that they're giving carbohydrates in other form, they're giving the calcium through other foods and all of that. One more question. Sure. Yes, that driving of teeth is, it again happens when there is a biotin deficiency and and there's lack of probiotic because the gut is very fermented, so then they have this grinding of teeth. The first thing I do is I first ask them to probably let the kid deworm, so any indigestion and anything is out. But then they definitely have to look for probiotics because that's the only way out. The grinding of teeth. So because probably now he's not having casing, he's not having curd, he's not having probiotics. So the bad. So I had one kid with grinding of teeth, especially in the night, they grind a lot. So this probiotics have helped them with that. That's mainly where it happens. But again, when you go off, they need to give what is there, the good in their food through some other food. So you have another question.